How do we start
We
this?
start this by saying, guys, we should fill you in on some information that the comments seem to be confused on.
It's kind of so shell shocking. I don't know how to like put it into words. So, like I kind of was telling Jefferson, as pessimistic as we are on this off season, there's certain moments where like we get hit in the mouth, and we kind of got hit in the mouth before we just did this podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
So as pessimistic as we are, I got a phone call that makes it worse. That makes it sound like there's possibilities of crazy things. We're not gonna name names. We're gonna kind of keep it is, but it was kind of tied into some aspects, and it was kind of also good to like we hear some stuff, we hear some speculation, and to get some speculation, not necessarily like on the other side, but like adjacent to the whole market of the disc golf, to where like certain things are verified, certain things are spoken, certain things are said, and you're just like, holy shit, we were kind of reading the tea leaves on this, but not only is it as bad as we think, it's possibly worse.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's the funny thing too. Was like, he's like,
Yeah.
hey, watch this video. You guys pretty much nailed on the head. And we're like, damn, we knew
Yeah.
this was just speculation from piecing things together, and then be told
Exactly.
everything you're alluding to was true, and it's way worse. Is terrifying.
Absolutely. And then like that kind of goes with some of this information. Like we said, like I think also when we're reading the views, we're reading the comments and what people are sharing. And man, we're so immersed in everything disc golf media. So not only are we reading our comments, but we're reading others. And the covers that are pulled over the eyes of the entire disc golf community on what is going on this off season is crazy.
Yeah, you know, it's not their fault too.
No.
No one's telling.
There's been no
information.
media around this, and most of the media that has been around is, you know what I mean, tailor made to either tied with manufacturers, selling discs, TDing, whatever. So it's kind of understandable. Like everybody's interest is in this, to like hear some of the stuff and to hear the comments. And you know, when you're also new to the sport, you're gonna kind of presume, like when you hear the term professional disc golf, you're gonna kind of assume there's certain levels of professionality that are extended in this game, and it's not. And part of it comes from these contracts really don't seem they're worth any bit of the paper that they're signed on.
No, especially from the rumors we hear.
Yes,
and just from the past. Think about how many contracts have been broken, treated not like a contract in the past, and now fast forward today, and it doesn't seem like they've gotten better.
Absolutely. And like when we're going into a market where we're talking about multiple players on 1-year deals looking for contracts, where most of the top tier talent would be considered on multi-year deals. When you're looking at the top 10, most of them are in the middle finalizing their multi-year deals. And we are hearing that these players aren't safe.
And not only not safe, like let's paint the picture of what we were told to us. Straight up gonna just be kicked off the team essentially with years left.
Yes, multiple years left.
Big name players that you would think would be secure forever are being just treated like nobodies.
What's scary to think is I think every manufacturer is going to take notice. Every manufacturer is going to lower their offers. Every manufacturer is going along these lines, and everything's tied in together. When you have like 30+% of the market tied together with House of Discs, and that's one of our other main clarifications. I will forever be tying any House of Discs lineup together. They are a House of Discs. There's no Discmania. There's no Dynamic. There's no Trilogy. It is House of Discs. That money that is operated is out of the same kinney, out of the same pot, and they act accordingly. So signing a player here, you are robbing Peter to pay Paul. It means that these players may not be signed. It may mean you need to cut players in order to sign other players or to lower the fees because discs aren't selling because of this isn't happening. And too often are a lot of, even the fans that are kind of in the know, and they are in the know, I think there's also this kind of notion of like, if you don't move plastic, you're available to this. We're talking about players that sign multi-years that you feel you are garnered that contract for those years. You are protected. You're buying vans. You're investing. And it's can be swept out from under you in an instant. And it's the contracts aren't good enough. that representation's not good enough. This sport and what it's going through at this moment is dire. It is dire, and and it's not being painted enough, and the picture's not being shown enough.
Not at all. And people really don't know. And your pros aren't going to go against their sponsor because at the end of the day, even if they're being treated a little bit dirty, if it's the best offer they're going to get, they're going to represent them still. That's all they got. They want to just throw frisbees.
And if you know there's limited amount of players that you can, or limited amount of options to where you can get sponsored or get paid, why would I try to ruin any relationship, right? Like, I don't want to ruin that. I don't want to engage in that because I might need them 3 years down the road. You know what I mean? And like, it's shocking. So yeah, like I said, House of Discs, they're going to be referred. So any Discmania talk is going to be House of Disc talk because that's what it is.
I'm trying to go on. I hate that I can't. This is the problem with this video is we have so much damn information of like, what can I say and what can I say? Because I'm not trying to screw any player or any individual, but at the same time, we're trying to educate the fans on being a similar basis of like, hey, what the narrative is trying to be represented by some of the manufacturers and higher up in disc golf isn't actually how it's being done, and most of the time is in jeopardy of the players, and they have no grounds to stand on. Because even when we're talking about contracts being broken and companies being shady in that terms, what's the player going to do? The player that's making no money, they're going to go hire the lawyer to sue these people with venture capitalists? Like, come on, let's be realistic.
Yeah, and not only that, you also have like the dichotomy of just what it does, like draining you on it. Like, I lost my train of thought.
Well, how are you supposed to be great at disc golf if all of a sudden in the middle of your year you're told, hey, your contract's going to be either cut or this is your last year?
Yeah.
How are you supposed to focus on being in the absolute best disc golfer you can?
Being at USDGC and talking and discussing whether you're concerned about your future with a brand, and things of that nature is happening. And like I said, and I get it. It's indicative of our community, and it's also kind of sold. Here you got players that are leaving, that you got NDAs attached with companies. You got stuff where players can't say anything. Their pay is indicative of fans' engagements, everything along those lines. Manufacturers, so like they're walking this fine line of everything, and here you're just given this information and like you're supposed to be told. And like, so a lot of stuff is like some of this player leaving is painted as players leaving, and you almost assume for better terms.
You always, I feel like, assume. That's how the narrative is painted out.
Exactly.
Because no one wants to say that they got booted.
Yeah. And like, we've seen it. We're seeing it at like unmatched numbers. If we're worried about certain players, certain pros getting cut from contracts at the end of the season, we saw contracts bought and lowered in the middle of the season with KJ and Vino, and now we're talking possibly other names this offseason, and what that shakes up into the market. Like, again, House of Disc has limited funds. Let's say we have painted a picture of Isaac Robinson has a fairly good possibility going dynamic, or Discmania.
Some signs point to Discmania.
Some signs are pointing to Discmania. However, if that happens, what that leaves in the position, the fewer spots available for throughout House of Discs, means players are still searching for contracts. So like, and now you're talking about other big names possibly getting out of multi-year contracts and jumping and hitting the open market, which again only makes this that much more degree of interesting. And the ones that are concerned the most are all those players that were on 1-year contracts the year prior that are at record numbers. Mm-hmm. And if you're throwing big name players that, in all honesty, deserve multi-year deals into this marketplace, it's going to suffer. And a lot of players are going to suffer on this front.
And the solution can't be, well, we have open bag players all of a sudden, because we've just alluded to in videos that people were surprised. Majority of professionals pay their own entry fee into tournaments. That's not covered by the sponsor. So what did the sponsor even pay for? Now it's take that all the way. Now you're starting double in the red. Why would any of these I'm sorry, that's not disrespectful, but you get what I mean on the picture of not top tier caliber talent. Why are they going to risk their life living in a minivan or whatever situation to not make money, to not have any security. Half these players don't even have any sort of health insurance, any sort of 401k. They have nothing to go back on. And sometimes they're not even paying for the entry fee they got into the tournament with.
Yeah. And the answer of like, hey, just move plastic, or it's on the players to be a promotion and to be that, I think is just an easy way to further put blinders on your eyes. No one's selling discs in this market. Everybody's down. You know what I mean? Yes, the sport is growing at at a certain level and agrees, and there is positives to the sport, but plastic and sales are not necessarily them. There's only a few manufacturers that are turning over, and others are seeing just stock being sold on clearance or put in mystery boxes and the whole nine along that. And so, yeah, if you're trying to really ask 100+ pros to be better salesmen, to sell discs, to be promotions, we're talking like that just sounds so Avon-esque. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are they supposed to do? Knock on the doors? That's not the solution. As much as we want to paint the picture, and it is kind of a reality, is that going to garner them a better contract? Certainly. No one's saying that. I understand that argument. I understand the thought process on it. And I understand like elite pros should do promotion. But to like put that on players at every level.
Isn't that crazy though, that these are supposed to be professional athletes and they're also supposed to be their publicist, their social media manager, content creator. Like they're supposed to be getting as good at throwing a frisbee as they possibly can, and you're giving them tasks that should not be even relate to that. And then their contract is based on that. And sometimes in contracts where it says we're going to help you do this in content and help you do this in the situation that will further not only your career, but then benefit our disc sales, they just don't do it. You know, it might be in a contract, but we're like, hey, we're not going to do it.
Well, you're also damned if you don't. If you're trying to be the best player and not promoting as well, they'll ding you for not promoting. And if you're not performing, they're going to try to ding you for not performing.
So really, it just seems like players are in the wrong always. We're being told from so many different places where I'm trying to find what players can do better besides all of a sudden winning every event like Gannon or somewhere. Like, how can you create a better presence for yourself and to make these companies really feel attached to you and not want to get rid of you? Because right now, everyone's disposable.
Yeah. And like just your Klein video, there was a comment and it's like, how can Klein promote when Gannon just signs to your team, puts up the year that he does, all the talk is surrounding him, even what he could do is not going to match or surpass what was going on. You know what I mean? And like, and don't get me wrong, there's players that do it well. And like, there is a need for a little bit of that hustle. We're not trying to take that away. And we're not trying to say that. We're just trying to paint a picture that this is like a weird house of cards that everything is stacked again on each other. And the failure and slips of one side could bring this thing down. Like, is what we're trying to say. And like, if, you know what I mean? And now when you have private equity firms involved and you have House of Disc owning a large share of what they do, like, it is making for an interesting market. And it's making for, and you got established players. Like, man, like if, like we've been saying, there's been so many conversations off of this, like that where we've been processing things and we've been communicating things, and you know what I mean? I can understand companies like Innova, like where they're viewed as wise for not giving contracts or outlasting this COVID boom, but then they turn around and lose Climo. You know what I mean? To where's the value and where does ownership feel the value is? And when you're talking about possible pros, either more open bags for every Austin Turner and Gavin Rathbun, there's so many other stories where it doesn't work out.
So many.
And if you're going to possibly put this many pros into that scenario, you're not touring full time. You're not doing this. You're not paying for tour cards. You're not going along those lines. And you're going to do like a regional travel. And like, it makes sense. And you're going to do your best, or you do an open bag and you try to get some smaller companies in. That's the only people that are going to benefit this is like the really small companies.
Like NASCAR, where you just wear some small company logos, do bags.
Exactly. Things. Everybody's kind of got like one disc, or like they're going to try to sell it. And you know, like some of those new brands that are kind of in the market, they got a chance. You know what I
Which
mean?
could be fun, but also, how long can that go? Where we were just at the $1 million. Remember when that was a big thing, and Paul got his $1 million, and then Simon got his whatever, and we were like, oh, disc golf finally got this big contract, and we're just gonna revert to almost below what COVID was because they're trying to retain, and they're like not seeing the benefit in it.
Yeah, they're they're kind of closing up shop, trying to outlast.
And then how long is it until then it's like, all right, let's just have a 3-person squad or just close our team entirely, because if you're not seeing any value, putting that in air quotes, everyone so you can see that I'm not saying this, just the mind of them not seeing the value of these players, they're not selling this or whatever, and we're okay with just chopping it and being like, that's business. How long can professional disc golf continue to survive?
Absolutely, man. And we're not even, dude, there's so many tiers. Like I said, House of Cards. Obviously, with the European market blowing up, you're going to put value on certain pros from overseas. That's going to put a strain on this market. When you're limiting your roster size, and you can tied into that is a European market where I think most of the bigs need some of that European flair and representation to help their brand. You see Innova trying to do it. Prodigy has great standing over there. You know what I mean? To where it pays off dividends in a growing economy, right? So that's only going to affect like things also. Like if we're talking limiting roster spaces with an expansion of players and a market that is overseas that is trending in a different direction than here in the States, it's going to create this weird dichotomy. And I think this offseason is like the first glimpse of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's possibly, unless things turn over, it's gonna get only worse.
Honestly, I don't see a way where this all of a sudden gets better.
No, and I think a lot of people are expecting it, but it's not at the levels that you think, and it's not. It's not how you believe.
Mm-hmm.
Like he said, man, people aren't paying entries. There's no health insurance.
I see comments all the time where they think pros are millionaires and how they should be getting all this luxury and how we shouldn't support them. We should support the lower guys. Where it's like, dude, you're like top 15 talent. Isn't making any sort of money. What do you mean go support other people? Like they need support. They're dying out there.
Absolutely.
Like it's just like you said, the idea of what a professional is sometimes seems misconstrued of what we think of professional sports, and then it's the infancy of what disc golf is. And you really have to take a step back and like start talking to pros if you want to know more, because I'm sure they'll tell you how hard it is to be living out there. You see the glimpses of vlogs and videos. Yeah, they want to put out entertaining stuff. They don't want to tell you like, yeah, I sleep in a Cracker Barrel parking lot, barely had enough gas to get here, trying to get a meal.
Yeah.
Like that reality is so much more than
flipping discs.
I'm making millions of dollars, I'm going to do this and that. Like that doesn't happen in our sport.
Yeah. I'm going to flip this disc. I'm going to buy this, sell it here.
It's so sad just going to fly marts and seeing players that had to pay money to go set up box of disc and barely have anyone come to even talk to them. That's what we're seeing right now in our sport. And it's
because the fly mart's not promoted and these players aren't being promoted. Like you said, man, it's kind of gross to ask these players to be self-promoted when the company doesn't promote them. And I think most people would agree that certain brands do it better, but there's a level of non-promotion for these pros, or a selection of a few.
Other than Discraft, who really be promoting their players like that?
Exactly. No, it's them. MVP. I would probably MVP is at least paying for practice rounds, stuff like that, and they do stuff like that. So yeah, MVP, Discraft, Innova is sure if you want to talk about random in the bag posts.
That's what I'm saying.
Like they don't 8 months too late. Like, you know what I mean?
They do the same content that hasn't been getting views in the past, and they think all of a sudden,
if we're gonna hold the pros to these expectations, why do we not hold the manufacturers to the same? And why are we not holding them to be like, why aren't you promoting a talent like Kyle Klein, who's a young up and coming player that you had the confidence in signing a multi-year deal? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, and granted, any pro for that matter. Like you're not, it's kind of this weird dichotomy of like, I think because people believe most people are going to understand like it's not a comfortable living, and most understand they're not getting paid, but it's different. It's just different than even those that believe that it's so different, and it's concerning, and hopefully we can kind of share more of it. Like this is honestly after, man, This was a long phone call where we kind of dug, we kind of got some information, we kind of got wild stories of like confirmations from like years back, some now, and it's just like, man, this is just eye-opening, and it's not being told, and we're gonna try to tell.
Yeah, none of it's being told, and from living on the road and hearing stories of just absolutely craziness that seems to just you can't even believe half the stuff. We're taking this as a time to not necessarily expose all of that, but just maybe shed light on the truth of behind disc golf that you don't really get to hear a lot. And that's why we're doing it in this format, I feel, because when you script something, a part of that genuine, I feel, comes out. Like, I want you guys to see our emotion when we talk about this, because we can't say what actually happening some of these times, but from how we talk about it, you should see the passion. And
yeah.
Like, it only can come off through this.
I think if I scripted this would be a lot more anger, in all honesty. Like, now it's just kind of shock and awe. Like, but if I had time to brew on this, sit on it, script it.
Well, sometimes when we script things, we come off super douchey, because I mean, that's the goal, because we're trying to throw the jab, the quick one. This is like you're getting our genuine first reaction to like, hey, these guys are hopefully, like, I care about these players, man. These dudes are my friends.
Yeah.
I lived in a minivan next to them. I understand how hard it is. So it just sucks hearing so many stories of I'm sorry, but players getting fucked over all the time. It sucks.
Yeah. And that's a great term to use. Fucked over.
Yeah, really. No exaggeration.
And like I said, that's if we're gonna expect if we're gonna expect certain things at pros, let's expect certain expectations out of companies, certain expectations out of agents. Let's have those same shared experiences and expectations across the board to grow this sport, to do what we initially do. I can understand the pro business side and what's happening in this market and it affecting your sponsorship, affecting your dollars. But there's a right and wrong way of doing business, if you ask me. And we cannot expect that 50-50 when Gannon was in that lawsuit and we had that 50-50 split. And there was legit people saying you need to honor a contract. And I can understand that argument. They were expected Gannon to honor the contract that he signed. I can respect that. You signed that contract. That is absolutely true. Why do we not afford that same expectations on a manufacturer basis that are possibly cutting contracts 2 years into multi-year deals, 1 year remaining on multi-year deals? And it's hitting them on tour, on the road. It's not just us. Other people have hinted at it. You know what I mean? Like, and it, like even that Matty O, that didn't come from us.
No,
that was foundation. So they're getting glimpses into it. And I think, too honestly, everybody's too tied into the business of disc golf. And we're kind of tied into, we're fans of this game first and foremost. And
no one pays us to say anything otherwise.
And this is kind of a passion project for us. And so, yeah, like when we see something that's kind of outrageous, we're going to kind of speak on it, and here we are.
So if you're willing to say whatever, we don't name no names. We're just trying to get the full story to the people, because that's how we feel the sport's going to grow and thrive. And if you got anything, it's pretty easy to reach out and find us. And
that goes for everybody, man. I would love agents. I would love, and even this conversation, this was out of the whim. Hit us up, asked to talk to us. We didn't know what to expect.
I had no idea who he was.
And yeah, we got punched in the mouth, and I'd love to hear from every side. And that
helps us educate ourselves and gain knowledge, so then we can know. We're still gonna be douches on the internet. That's not stopping. At least let us know what we're talking about.
Yeah, this is our delivery. That's our delivery style. It's partly character. It is partly. It's different. And that's what we're trying to be, and it's our style and our approach. But yeah, I couldn't do this scripted.
No, it wouldn't come off.
Man, it would take me like a week. it would like, part of me would be like, am I harsh enough? Am I not harsh? Am I too harsh? Because I've only gotten this perspective. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like, I'm just tired of like this off season kind of be painting as like, I think everybody expects this off season to be different and like bleak, grim. I think people are kind of expecting the worst, and
it could be worse.
Yeah, it could be worse. Your worse is worse, and my expectations are already probably below most of your guys.
Yeah, Swiss hates everything already, guys. You should have expected him to be
now it's even worse. And now it's like to where like, man, off this phone conversation, I was literally asking questions about like, hey, do you see this? Do you see this? And it's like to get the answers of like the questions that I know I'm asking is kind of scary.
It's a little wild.
Yeah.
But I think that's all we had to say on this, right?
Yeah, I don't know if this is gonna go on Patreon or a video. We'll see when we edit it.
It's probably gonna go online. We're gonna stir the.
This is the emotional dump that is the news that we just got. But yeah, pro, agent, manufacturer. Like, I'll take any bit. I'll listen to every bit. Allow me to ask some questions, and let me paint a picture to where I'm wrong or I'm right, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Use us as your voice. Yeah. That's all you gotta say.